Hey guys, it's the Fantasy Brothers yet again, inching closer to the fantasy kickoff. I know drafts are starting now. We have a lot of our drafts starting in the next 2 weeks, and man, can't wait to cover the rest of our position rankings and get everybody set for this coming season. Spence, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I don't need you to tell me what to do, Pete. But what's up, guys? It's Spencer Phillips again, one half of the Fantasy Brothers. We out here. We're gonna give y'all wide receiver tier rankings today. We're gonna divide it up into, I believe, 6 tiers. We kind of know the first and second, even maybe even third tier. It just depends on your personal preference. But where you really win the draft is in those fourth, fifth, and sixth tiers, where you're getting wide receiver 2 or even borderline wide receiver 1 production. So we're gonna try to give you some insight into that. So with no further ado, we should just get into the first tier. Who do you got in your first tier, Sterling?
My first tier, you can't go wrong with any of these guys. Obviously, the number one receiver going this year is DeAndre Hopkins. The guy is unstoppable. Literally, he's the best receiver in the league, best hands in the league, and if you want to talk about making tough catches, he can make them all. But a guy that is kind of on the bottom of the tier one receivers, at least ranking wise, but I think has the potential to finish top three, is Juju Smith Schuster. I think Juju is in line for a huge year. I wasn't that high on him coming, this summer, but just kind of reading the reports and kind of seeing how everything's kind of falling in place. Juju has real potential to. A lot of people would probably say, he broke out last year, but that was with Antonio Brown still in the lineup. Granted, he's going to be, face a lot more double teams. People are going to be scheming for him a lot more, but I just think the volume's going to be there, and the guy, one of the biggest things about Juju is what he does after the catch. He has the big play potential to take to the house pretty much anytime he touches the ball. And, like I said, Big Ben, he's going to force feed it just like he did Antonio Brown. He's going to do Juju, and I think he's going to have a huge year.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the Juju prediction. I was looking at ESPN's tier rankings. They have him just in the second tier with Antonio Brown, and I put Juju in tier 1 as well. A guy that I was pretty disappointed with ESPN's ranking. I think they put Tyreek Hill in tier 3. I was like, bro, I know the guy had a rocky offseason and has questionable characteristics about his, I guess character, but you can't deny what the guy does on the football field. Last year he had, I think, 14, almost 1,500 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 87
I want to
receptions.
say he was the number one receiver in fantasy last
I
year.
think, yeah, I think he was number 1 or 2. I can't remember, but he was top 2, and they want to put him in tier 3, and people like Odell Beckham Jr. ahead of him, which obviously we haven't seen Odell with a competent quarterback in about 2 years now. But you got to put some respect on Tyreek Hill's name, man. He's definitely in my tier 1. So if I had to list off 5 names who is in my tier 1, I'm going Hopkins, Adams, Julio, uh, Tyreek, and Michael Thomas or Juju. I'd probably lean towards Juju personally because I think Juju's going to have those games where he has multiple touchdowns and things that can put you over the top more than Michael Thomas. But we'll see. But that'd be my tier 1 guys right there.
Yeah, my tier one is Hopkins, Adams, Jones, Thomas, OBJ, and Juju, and Tyreek at very close borderline uh, number one. But yeah, let's hop into our tier two. So tier two, it gets a little bit murky, but a guy that I am very high on this year, mainly because of his new head coach, and that is Mike Evans. I think Mike Evans is in line for a huge year, and I think everyone involved on the Tampa Bay offense is in line for a huge year. Bruce Arians loves utilizing his running back, especially in the passing game. He likes utilizing whoever's going to be running the slot, whether it's Chris Godwin or Mike Evans. It's gonna be fun to watch, and especially as a fantasy owner, you want to have a stake in the claim because these guys are going to have huge years. Um, another guy that's in tier two that you know it's I don't really know what to make of the antics with Antonio Brown. I mean, with the whole helmet situation, then him getting frostbite on his feet. I mean, we all know the talent's there, the work ethic's there, but I feel like it's just uh a crash waiting to happen. And I really think as soon as things start going south in Oakland, the whole offense and pretty much everyone along with is going to crash and burn. I mean, who knows? Antonio Brown, if they start off terribly, and Antonio Brown might call it quits halfway through the season. Who knows? I mean, I'm
I
just
mean,
being
at this
honest.
rate, the guy is about to retire because he doesn't have the right helmet. I mean, he doesn't get 10 targets in one game. He might say, "I don't need football. Y'all need me." So we'll see, man. That's a huge question mark with Antonio Brown. Obviously, I mean, the guy's all time, but you're right. He's a head case, and you don't know what Antonio Brown you're going to get week to week. So if you draft him, just be ready for a headache at times.
Yeah, I would stay away from him, to be completely honest. I the talent's there. I just at a probably. I mean, if you're drafting Antonio Brown, you're looking at a second round pick. I think there's just way too many question marks, and for me to take Antonio Brown this year.
Okay, let me ask you just a quick question, real quick. Would you rather have Antonio Brown or Adam Thielen, PPR?
Adam Thielen.
Gotcha. I see where you stand. Well, who else is in your tier two?
Another guy, I think is going to be Mr. Steady. I think he has a chance to really, build on the last 2 years, especially if he stays healthy, and that's Keenan Allen.
Yep.
Keenan Allen's going to be, we know what to expect from Keenan Allen. Borderline, 1,100, 1,200 yards, probably six to seven touchdowns. With the emergence of Mike Williams and the departure of Tyrell. Oh man, what's Tyrell?
Williams.
Yeah, Tyrell Williams. I don't think Keenan Allen's going to be getting as many red zone looks, but I think he's going to get a lot more targets, and I think he'll be able to maybe put up more numbers in the yardage category, but maybe not in the touchdowns. But he's never been like a huge touchdown getter. He's been steady. He has great hands, great route running ability, and has the ability to put up huge numbers, especially when it comes to yardage. So I really like Keenan Allen this year as well.
For sure. And so, my tier two guys, I'm going Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, um, Stephon Diggs, who I like slightly more than Adam Thielen, and I put Thielen in there too. Tier two is pretty deep because I feel like you can get a solid wide receiver for the first three, almost top four rounds. Obviously, not on the level of tier one guys, but guys that can come in and be a solid wide receiver one. But I like ever since the change in offensive coordinator, I think in the middle of last year with the Minnesota Vikings, Thielen had the insane streak of 100-yard games. I don't remember how many it was. It was at like 10 or something like that. And they switched offensive coordinators, and he had a pretty silent last 6 games of the year. And Diggs had a much better second half of the year. Although he didn't put up super gaudy yardage numbers, he scored in I think the last three
He's
straight
scoring, yeah,
games.
he was scoring touchdowns for sure.
And so I feel like Diggs is going to be the one getting his uh, card called when there's red zone opportunities. I mean, as far as the receiver standpoint goes, so I'm putting Diggs slightly above Thielen, but they both make my tier two guys. So I said Mike Evans, Adam Thielen and Diggs, and who else did I say? Antonio Brown. So that's probably my tier two guys right there.
Yeah, I have Tyreek Hill, Mike Evans, Keenan Allen, Antonio Brown, and T.Y. Hilton.
And I'm sorry, I had Keenan Allen in there too for me as well.
So
I'll talk about my tier three guys real quick just to
yeah,
segue over. I honestly have T.Y. Hilton in this to start out, and then I have Amari Cooper, and then I have Robert Woods. And the reason I love Ty. I mean, I've been a Ty fan since he got into the league. But there's a lot of questions surrounding Andrew Luck's health right now, and that would kind of make me drop him down draft boards just because we've seen what Ty can do with Andrew Luck, and we've unfortunately seen what he can do without Andrew Luck. They do have a competent backup in Jacoby Brissett, who has proven he can be an NFL uh, quarterback at this level, but he ain't no Andrew Luck. So I slide T.Y. Hilton down into my tier three guys. Amari Cooper, same thing. We saw a small sample size of 6 games, I think 8 games, whatever it was, with the Dallas Cowboys, and he looked damn good. Looked like exactly what Dak needed, but then again, there's a small sample size. I would take the risk on Cooper. I know Sterling's not the biggest fan of Coop, right? You don't really like Coop that much.
yeah, I think Coop's gonna get figured out, like he kind of did in Oakland, and I mean, it's just what it is. I think Cooper has great talent. I just think that I don't even think it's his fault. I think it's the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys, being extremely one dimensional. I mean,
Well, we got a new coordinator now. I can't have no Cowboys slander on here because we have a new, young, fresh offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore, who's going to be mixing up the calls. We just got to get our team in order, and we're winning the Super Bowl this year, baby. You heard it here first on Fantasy Brothers.
I'm not co-signing.
You heard it from Fantasy Brother number 1 then.
You mean number 2? All right, so let me get in my tier 3 guys. I mean, we're talking about Cooper, Thielen, Diggs, Edelman, the combination of Cooks and Woods, and you know who I'm throwing in my tier 3? I'm throwing in Chris
Who?
Godwin. I think Chris.
Oh, okay.
I like Chris Godwin as a tier 3 threat. I mean, Bruce Arians has been on record saying the guy's not coming off the field. The guy is going to be primarily in the slot where Bruce Arians is targeting. I mean, pretty much. I mean, we saw what Larry Fitzgerald did in Bruce Arians' offense in the slot, and they're going to be playing. And Chris Godwin is going to be primarily playing the slot this year with the Tampa Bay Bucks. I see him having a crazy year this year. I think that he's probably going to be solidified wide receiver 2, if not borderline wide receiver 1, at least production wise. I'm that high on this guy. I really like Chris Godwin. I want to say he's probably going in the 4th and 5th rounds. If you have an opportunity to grab him, especially in the 4th round, I would reach and make sure you get him on your team. I'm that high on this guy. Next, a guy that this guy, he he's steady Eddie. He's the definition of steady Eddie, but I'm just not too sure about Julian Edelman. I mean, I think of course with Tom Brady, I mean these guys are literally, can run plays in their sleep together. And I have no question that they're going to produce, but I just don't know if Julian Edelman is going to stay healthy for a full year. Especially, I just feel like there's a lot of he's going to be getting keyed on heavily, especially with no Gronk this year. And I just don't see him just putting up crazy numbers like he possibly could. I'm just personally staying away from him. I don't know, Spence, you might feel differently, but
Yeah,
I'm staying
I
away from
love Julian
Julian
Edelman.
Edelman.
I love Julian
Are
Edelman
you
this year as a wide receiver 2 for sure. I definitely am not drafting him as a 1, even in PPR. But if he's my wide receiver 2 in PPR, which I've done a lot of mock drafts and I've had strong running backs and a wide receiver 1, he's there at wide receiver 2. depending on your draft position. And dude, I mean, you just look at the guy's numbers. I mean, he's guaranteed at least 90 receptions every year if he plays a full 16. He is Tom Brady's safety blanket. He will go to him early and often. Tom Brady has some shiny new weapons with, N'Keal Harry and Jacoby Myers, I believe. And, I think they added, Ben Watson, but he's suspended for 4 games, I believe. But, you know, I like Edelman, man. I think he'll get about close to 100 receptions, if not higher, and he's good for 1,100 yards and 7 touches. I mean, that's solid wide receiver 2 production. So I'm high on Edelman.
Yeah.
Another guy that I'm high on, which you already know this was coming, I'm high on DJ Moore. I'm as high on DJ Moore as you are on Chris Godwin.
Wait, you're talking about
Because
DJ Moore as a tier 3?
no, hell no, hell no, hell no. I'm saying DJ Moore's tier 4.
Oh, okay. So we're on the tier 4. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I thought we were doing tier 4. But yeah, my tier 4 guys are DJ Moore, like I said, Edelman, Cooper Cup, Brandon Cooks, and Godwin. And I got to throw in Kenny Galladay in there too, because Kenny Galladay had, I think, exactly 1,000 yards last year, and is looking to build on that. And he apparently has that it factor when, according to Chad Ochocinco, which he's a good, he might not be the best representation in the NFL, but he knows talent when he sees it. So those are my guys, and I'm super high on DJ Moore. You can get him in the same ADP around Chris Godwin. I believe Godwin's going like a spot ahead of him, maybe a couple. And I see the same kind of production. I see elite wide receiver 2 production from DJ Moore as long as Cam Newton stays healthy, which all indications are pointing to his shoulders looking better, and he got a little zip on the ball. But they managed that. DJ Moore should have a big year, over 1,000 yards, and I say close to 6 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I like DJ Moore, but I mean at tier 4, I mean a guy that I mean obviously has dropped in drafts, everywhere is AJ Green. I mean, if you can get AJ Green as your wide receiver 3, I mean, I don't see anyone in that group, I mean, coming close to the actual talent of AJ Green. Granted, can you afford not to have him? 3 to 4 weeks. That's the big question. But I mean, at your wide receiver 3, typically you can probably stand not to have your wide receiver 3 start the season off, and then I mean you're in the crystal clear for the rest of the season. I actually think this injury is a blessing in disguise for AJ Green because he's going to be coming into starting the season um fresh. He's going to be starting. I mean, after like people have played a few games, it's probably going to take him a game or two to get ramped up. But this might give maybe instead of getting that playing a full 16, he plays a solid 12 and doesn't and stays healthy for that 12. So I'm interested to see what AJ Green comes is going to do when he comes back. Another guy that's coming off injury that
1 second. I want to address AJ Green real quick. I am not co-signing that because I love AJ Green. I've seen the talent and numbers he puts up, but I am not a believer that he can stay healthy for a full year. Okay, you get him at your wide receiver 3, cool, but fantasy football, in my opinion, is all about minimizing risk through the draft, and I would rather go with a guy like Galladay or Moore even over AJ Green. I know Sterling's over there, about to have a conniption me saying that, but the guy's going to be out at least 3 games. He got hurt on a route in practice, basically not, or was it non-contact kind of thing? Like he hurt his ankle in a way or something, and the guy's body just can't. It can't keep up right now, and until I see different, I'm not gonna draft him even with my 6th round pick. I don't think, but Sterling has AJ Green in a couple of leagues, so I feel like he's kind of speaking some things into existence, which I do a lot as well. But I'm staying away from AJ Green in drafts personally.
I hear you, man.
Anyways, go ahead, man. But yeah, you feel me? Like it's nothing against
No,
AJ Green. He has all the talent in the
but
world,
that's
but
what I was just saying. I mean, for a full 16, I feel like he's bound to get injured, but maybe playing 12 straight, he stays healthy. You know, I mean, I actually think that this, like I said, this injury might be a blessing in disguise for him, and you know, he give him some time to get right and kind of come into the season, ease his way into the season a little bit, um, and you know, he'll be very fresh. Um, Another guy I really like is Cooper Cup. I think Cooper Cup is honestly going to be the best receiver for the Rams if he stays healthy. Him and Jared Goff already showed, I mean, immense um uh what's the word I'm looking for?
chemistry.
Chemistry. Uh the guy can find the end zone. He can just flat out get open. I really like Cooper Cup. If you can get Cooper Cup as you know your wide receiver three, wide receiver, you know even as a wide receiver two,
Oh, you're
I
winning.
love him. I love him. A guy I'm staying away from in tier four is Jarvis Landry. Jarvis Landry had every opportunity to literally have his best career, best season ever last year, and it just didn't manifest. With I mean, with yeah, a quarterback like Baker Mayfield that's extremely accurate, can throw the ball down the field. He just never, you know, I don't even think he got over a 900 yards last year. Had a career low.
He did.
He did. Well, I know it was
He
his.
had 976.
Well, it was his worst year since his rookie year, yardage wise, and his least amount of touchdowns since his rookie year as well. So he had career lows last year, and now you got OBJ. You have that's now the clear cut number one guy in Cleveland. I just don't see him even reaching those numbers that he did last year, which were career lows. So I'm staying away from Jarvis Landry.
You know,
So I guess what? Oh,
I
go
don't
ahead.
know if I agree because Jarvis, yes, he has some enhanced competition now for targets, and I'm not super high on Jarvis, but Jarvis is good for wide receiver, low end wide receiver two, or a very high end wide receiver three or flex production. So if you're drafting him at your wide receiver two, in my opinion, there's better options for sure. Jarvis does not find the end zone that much, but he does get some receptions. It's just I kind of agree in the sense that there's a lot of mouths to feed in the Browns offense, and he didn't show that he without Odell Beckham Jr. in the lineup was he didn't put up crazy numbers, you know. So I guess I kind of see what you're saying, but if you have him as your wide receiver, low end wide receiver two or flex or wide receiver three, I think you're winning personally. But
Yeah.
what do you think about? I want to just talk about two guys real quick because they had insane years fantasy wise last year. And first guy is Tyler Lockett. I am very high on Tyler Lockett. I know that the Seahawks added DK Metcalf, but Tyler Lockett had a career year last year very silently. I mean, he had 10 touchdowns. I see some regression in the touchdown department, but he had 57 receptions for 965 yards, averaging 17 a reception. Like the guys, I mean, he's up there with Tyreek Hill in speed, right? And they finally seem like they're putting him in the right positions to be a playmaker. He suffered that gruesome injury, I think, a couple of years ago, but he's completely healed from that, and he looked damn good last year. So I'm wondering if he's going to take a step or if this was kind of like an anomaly as far as the number of touchdowns. Like I could see the number of touchdowns going down, but possibly he touches 1,000 yards this year. I would like Tyler Lockett, and his ADP is a bargain in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I second that. I love Tyler Lockett too. I think he is, you know, primed to have a great year, especially with the departure of Doug Baldwin. You know, he's in my opinion, the clear cut number one guy, and he has the most rapport with Russell Wilson. So I like Tyler Lockett as well. So let's get into our tier 5 guys. So these tier 5 guys, if you hit on your tier 5 guys, more than likely you are going to at least be in the fantasy playoffs, and if not have the, you know, the depending on how the first end of your draft goes. This is where the draft is won. These tier 5, tier 6 guys, these diamonds in the rough where, you know, one if you do your homework, you can really hit on these guys and shape out your team very nicely. So the first guy that I think that is, I have two guys primed to break out in tier 5. One is Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk now with I mean, should I say now? Well, his rookie year with Arizona. He was literally the lone bright spot for the Arizona Cardinals, and a lot of people aren't talking about is their schedule coming up for or this their schedule this year is very wide receiver friendly. They are going against some, I mean, just not very good secondaries pretty much the whole year. And I think with the addition of Kyler Murray, that a guy that is one extremely accurate and two can get the ball down the field, I really see Christian Kirk, as long as he can stay healthy, because he is coming off a broken foot. As long as he can stay healthy, can put up a amazing year. So I really like Christian Kirk. I really like another guy I really like is Dante Pettis. Dante Pettis had a kind of like Stephon Diggs, an amazing end of the year. Where I want to say, how many touchdowns did he score in his last like 4 games? I want to say he scored 3 touchdowns in his last 4 games, something like that. Um, I really think that this guy is has all the makings um of a great receiver. The number one job wide receiver job is pretty much wide open in San Francisco, and I think, I mean, between Jalen Hurd, Debo Samuel, and Dante Pettis, I personally think Dante Pettis has the best opportunity to get that role. So, and I forgot about Marquise Goodwin, but we all know he's just, bomb it type
Speedster.
guy. Yeah, so I don't really.
Okay, was that tier 5?
Yeah, that was tier 5.
Okay, because my tier 5 guys, I have Alshon Jeffrey, previously mentioned Tyler Lockett. Then I got some young guys. I got Calvin Ridley. I have Mike Williams. And I have Robbie Anderson.
Oh, see, I had all
And
those guys in tier 4. My tier 4 is like 10 guys.
okay, well, yeah, I know it's hard to talk about all of them, but I wanted to just speak on these guys real quick, at least one of them.
Yeah, go
And
ahead.
I'm very high on Robbie Anderson this year. I just hope this guy can keep his head on straight because he is a problem. Usually, a lot of his stats in the past have come from like garbage games and garbage time. But hey, man, that still counts in fantasy land. And last year, the guy had 50 receptions for 752 yards and 6 touchdowns. This past or the year before that, I believe he had 63 receptions for 941 yards and 7 touchdowns. And now he's catching the ball from an improved Sam Darnold. Adam Gase, I'm not sure what he's going to do with the offense, but all the reports are saying it's looking pretty good. You have Le'Veon Bell, who can alleviate so much pressure off of everybody in on the offense. I think Robbie Anderson's going to prevail from that, and you can get him at a wide receiver 3 price tag. He can be your first receiver off the bench and see what happens. I would say take a gamble on this guy. He is a risk because he be acting a fool sometimes, but I like him a lot. And I also like Calvin Ridley, as I said earlier. The guy had 10 touchdowns last year. I mean, if you had him plugged in that week, I think he had like 146 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, Jesus. The guy is showing he has all the talent in the world, but can he build on it? And he's playing to get us alongside Julio, who you might as well call him Julio triple team. I mean, he will have safeties over the top all day, opening up Calvin Ridley to have another solid season. And you can get him as your wide receiver 3 as well. And I think he outplays that ADP tremendously. So those are my guys in the tier 5-ish. They probably are a little higher, but I don't want to put like 8 guys in my tier, but each tier. But
Yeah,
that's
it's
that.
just once you start getting into like these later tiers, there's just so many guys that are close
So many
together.
guys.
So I mean that we kind of we didn't want to get too far into it, but before we sign off, there's just a few guys I kind of want to cover that um I per
How about some? What are you about to say? Because I kind of want to get in just if maybe add one more thing to what you're gonna say is like guys that you should not target. At least 3,
oh
even if their ADP is like high or they got who are you not high on receiver
guys that
wise?
I've already named, Jarvis Landry. Um, I'm staying away from Jarvis. Personally, I'm staying away from Edelman, not because mainly because I think Edelman's gonna get hurt. Um, Staying away from Allen Robinson. Um, Probably staying away from Corey Davis.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm staying away
Yeah,
from Corey Davis. I also am staying away from Sammy Watkins. I know
nah,
Sterling loves him, but I'm
I'm
staying
staying away from
away.
Sammy. I really think McCole is the future. I actually think that they think McCole can replace Tyreek, and instead of paying Tyreek all that money, they think maybe can just have McCole slide in, and just because the character issues with Tyreek, and um, you know why not? I mean, Tyreek's obviously going to be demanding top dollar. I mean, he's probably going to want you know a 80 to 90 million dollar contract. I mean, they might want to save that money and use it somewhere else. But I'm trying to predict the future. This is just all speculation at the time right now.
Well, if is asking for 40 million, what's Pat Mahomes gonna ask for? They're gonna need some money for that man. He's gonna be the highest
Oh,
paid
without a
quarterback in
doubt,
history.
without a doubt.
So
But yeah, staying away from
yeah.
Antonio Brown. The news about Andrew Luck makes me a little weary about T.Y. Hilton. I mean, Andrew Luck's literally coming into the season already injured. I don't like
Hobbled.
that.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously T.Y. Hilton's talent's undeniable, but we all know he's a completely different fantasy player with uh without luck, with or without
Without
luck. So
luck.
it's almost Jekyll and Hyde. Uh, if Jacoby Brissett's the starting quarterback, I don't trust anybody on the offense, on the Colts offense, to be completely honest. So,
Okay. Well, yeah. You know, either way, you guys can take our advice with a grain of salt. Pick who you guys like, but when the fantasy brothers are right, we'll just say we told you so, man. Anyways, be on the lookout for our next podcast. We will discuss some more fantasy implication things. We have not decided
I think
yet,
we're gonna
but
be
we will
doing
discuss
tight end.
that.
I think we're gonna
And
do a double segment of tight ends and quarterbacks, and probably after that, we're going to do a special covering IDP players. I know, since we started playing fantasy, I mean, what has been almost a decade, maybe even over. The use of IDP players has grown and grown year by year, and I feel people are starting to cover him a lot more. So we're gonna do a little segment on some guys that we really like from an IDP perspective, and kind of there's just so many defensive players. There's just there's a ton of defensive players, and there's a lot of sleepers that we're gonna point out and kind of just cover. So stay tuned.
definitely don't forget to like and subscribe our page at Fantasy Brothers. Follow us on Instagram and everything like that.
Yep.
Appreciate you
Over and
guys.
out.